Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded American street. Cars move fast. People speak quickly. Coffee shops are busy. Someone asks you a simple question in English, and suddenly your mind freezes. Your heart beats faster. You know a few words, but the sentence disappears before it reaches your mouth. Many English learners know this feeling. It is not because they are weak. It is not because they are unintelligent. It happens because learning a language is not only about grammar. It is about confidence, emotion, courage, and daily practice. This documentary is not just another English lesson. This is a journey, a slow and powerful walk from fear to confidence, from silence to communication, from beginner to independent English speaker. Today, you are not starting alone. You are walking beside millions of learners who once struggled exactly like you. Some lived in small rural towns. Some came from crowded cities. Some were factory workers, students, farmers, drivers, waiters, parents, dreamers, and ordinary people who simply wanted a better future. English changed their lives, step by step. And now, this journey begins for you. Lesson 1. The first day of learning English often feels uncomfortable. A learner opens a notebook, watches a video, or listens to an American speaker online. At first, every sentence sounds like fast music. Words blend together. The learner hears sounds but cannot separate them. This stage feels frustrating, but something important is happening deep inside the brain. The brain is building new pathways. A young man named Daniel lived in a quiet farming town in America. His parents moved there from another country. At school, Daniel stayed silent because he was afraid to pronounce words incorrectly. Every time the teacher asked him to read aloud, his hands shook. One evening, Daniel's grandfather sat beside him on the porch. The old man looked at the sunset and said softly, "Every strong tree started as a weak seed." Daniel never forgot those words. The next morning, he practiced only 5 English sentences. Just 5. He repeated them while brushing his teeth, walking to school, and helping his father in the field. The sentences were simple. I am learning English. I can improve every day. I am not afraid to make mistakes. My voice matters. I will keep going. Those small sentences became the beginning of his confidence. English does not grow through perfection. It grows through repetition. The first step from A1 level is not difficult grammar. It is courage. Lesson 2. At the beginner level, learners often believe they must understand everything immediately. But language learning does not work that way. Babies do not speak perfectly after 1 week. They listen first. They observe first. They slowly collect sounds, emotions, and meaning. English learners must give themselves permission to grow slowly. A woman named Sarah worked long shifts at a grocery store in Chicago. She wanted to improve her English, but she felt embarrassed because customers sometimes repeated their questions when she answered incorrectly. One cold winter night, she sat alone in her apartment and watched an American documentary with subtitles. She understood maybe 10% of the words. Still, she continued watching. Day after day, she repeated this habit. Slowly, familiar words started appearing again and again. Morning, busy, coffee, work, family. The language stopped feeling impossible. This is how the A1 brain begins learning English. Through exposure, not by force, not through fear, through repetition and patience. The secret is simple. Do not fight the language. Live beside it. Listen while cooking. Listen while driving. Listen while walking. English becomes easier when it becomes part of your daily life. Lesson 3. Every learner faces a dangerous moment called comparison. One student speaks fluently. Another learner understands movies. Someone else uses advanced vocabulary. And suddenly, beginners feel small. But comparison destroys progress. A teenager named Miguel moved to Texas during high school. His classmates spoke fast American English. They laughed loudly. They used slang he had never heard before. Miguel returned home every day feeling invisible. One afternoon, his teacher noticed his silence. She gave him a notebook and said, "Write one sentence every day. Don't stop." At first, his sentences were tiny. "I like basketball. My lunch was good. I am tired today." But weeks later, his thoughts became larger. "I want to become confident speaking English. I feel nervous when people speak quickly. I believe my future can change." Writing slowly gave shape to his thoughts. This is an important A1 to A2 transition. Learners begin expressing emotions, not only vocabulary. Real language starts when feelings enter the sentence. Lesson 4. Pronunciation scares many learners because they think one mistake will make people laugh. But the truth is powerful. Most Americans care more about your effort than your accent. Communication matters more than perfection. A factory worker named Elena practiced pronunciation during lunch breaks. While others checked their phones, she quietly repeated English sounds. Think. 3. Through. At first, she struggles with the TH sound. Her co-workers sometimes corrected her kindly. Instead of becoming embarrassed, she smiled and practiced again. One day, a new worker asked for directions inside the factory. Elena explained clearly in English. For the first time, someone understood her immediately. That small moment changed everything. Confidence is built from tiny victories, not giant ones. Every correctly spoken sentence becomes proof that growth is happening. Lesson 5. Vocabulary is not collected like random objects. Words become powerful only when connected to life. Many learners memorize long lists: apple, table, window, beautiful. But isolated words disappear quickly. Meaning creates memory. A father named James wanted to help his daughter learn English after school. Instead of forcing vocabulary drills, he turned everyday life into learning moments. At dinner, he pointed gently. "This is rice. This is water. The spoon is on the table. Outside," he said, "the sky is cloudy. The dog is running. The bus is late." English became connected to real experiences. This is how children naturally learn language, and adults can learn the same way. When vocabulary enters daily life, it stops feeling artificial. It becomes living communication. Lesson 6. Two learners begin noticing an exciting change. English no longer sounds completely foreign. Familiar phrases appear during conversations, movies, songs, and podcasts. This stage feels magical, but it also introduces a new challenge. The plateau. Progress suddenly feels slower. A college student named Emma studied English every day for 6 months. In the beginning, improvement happened quickly. Then, everything felt stuck. She became frustrated. One evening, her mentor told her something important. Growth becomes invisible before it becomes powerful. Emma continued practicing anyway. Weeks later, she realized she understood an entire restaurant conversation without subtitles. The progress had been happening quietly. Language growth is often invisible before it becomes obvious. Never quit during the silent season. Lesson 7. Listening is one of the hardest skills because real Americans rarely speak like textbook recordings. They speak fast. They reduce sounds. They connect words together. Want to becomes wanna. Going to becomes gonna. At first, learners panic. But understanding spoken English is like learning rhythm in music. A delivery driver named Marcus improved his listening by choosing one short podcast episode every morning. He listened repeatedly. Not once, not twice. Sometimes 10 times. Eventually, he stopped translating every word inside his head. Instead, he understood meaning directly. This is a major step toward fluency. When learners stop translating and start understanding naturally, English begins feeling alive. Lesson 8. Fear of mistakes traps many learners in silence. They wait for perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, perfect confidence. But perfect conditions never arrive. A waitress named Olivia accidentally told a customer, "Enjoy your problem," instead of "enjoy your meal." She felt embarrassed, but the customer laughed kindly. Then something surprising happened. Olivia laughed too. That moment taught her a life-changing lesson. Mistakes are not enemies. They are teachers. Every fluent speaker once made thousands of errors. Fluency is not the absence of mistakes. It is the courage to continue speaking despite them. Lesson 9. Reading simple English stories helps learners build emotional understanding. Grammar books teach structure. Stories teach humanity. A retired man named Robert began reading short English stories at the public library. At first, he used a dictionary constantly. But slowly, he started guessing meaning from context. This skill is extremely important. Native speakers do not know every word either. They understand meaning through clues. The same ability develops in learners through consistent reading. Books train patience. Stories train imagination. And imagination strengthens language memory. Lesson 10. Speaking English alone may sound strange, but it is one of the most powerful learning tools. A nurse named Lily practiced conversations while driving home. She asked imaginary questions. How was your day? What are your goals? What do you want for dinner? Then she answered aloud. This habit reduced fear. Her brain became familiar with producing English sentences in real time. Speaking is like exercising a muscle. The more learners practice, the stronger their confidence becomes. Lesson 11. There comes a moment when learners suddenly realize something incredible. They are thinking in English, not always, not perfectly, but sometimes. A young mechanic named Noah noticed this while fixing a truck engine. Without realizing it, he whispered to himself, "This part is broken." The sentence appeared naturally. That small moment felt enormous. The brain had started creating thoughts directly in English. This is one of the biggest emotional turning points in language learning. English is no longer outside the learner. It begins living inside the mind. Lesson 12. Motivation rises and falls. Some days feel exciting. Other days feel exhausting. A construction worker named Victor often returned home too tired to study. Instead of forcing 2-hour lessons, he changed his strategy. He practiced for only 15 focused minutes daily. Consistency became more important than intensity. This simple change transformed his progress. Many learners fail because they depend on motivation. Successful learners depend on routine. Small daily actions create massive long-term results. Lesson 13. At the A2 level, learners begin understanding emotions inside conversations. Tone becomes meaningful. Sarcasm becomes noticeable. excitement sounds different from sadness. A teenager named Ava loved watching American interviews online. She noticed how speakers changed their voices when discussing dreams, heartbreak, or success. Language is not only words, it is emotion carried through sound. When learners start understanding emotional meaning, comprehension becomes deeper and more human. Lesson 14. Confidence often grows quietly. A man named Chris worked at a small restaurant in Arizona. One evening, the restaurant became crowded. A customer asked several complicated questions quickly. Without thinking, Chris answered naturally in English. Afterward, he stood silently in the kitchen. He realized something incredible. Months earlier, that conversation would have terrified him. Now, he had handled it calmly. Growth sometimes becomes visible only when we compare ourselves to our old fears. Lesson 15. Grammar matters. But communication matters more. Some learners become trapped studying rules endlessly. Present perfect, past continuous, conditionals, complex structures. But language exists to connect humans. A grandmother named Helen learned English mainly to speak with her grandchildren. Her grammar was imperfect, but her love was clear, and people understood her. Never forget the real purpose of language: connection, friendship, opportunity, human understanding. Lesson 16. The road from beginner to intermediate is not straight. There are moments of confusion, moments of doubt, moments when learners feel like quitting. A warehouse employee named Jordan failed an English interview twice. After the second rejection, he sat alone in his car feeling defeated. Then he remembered why he started. He wanted a better future for his family. The next morning, he practiced again. Persistence became stronger than embarrassment. Months later, he passed another interview. Sometimes success arrives only after learners survive disappointment. Lesson 17. American culture appears everywhere inside English. Movies, music, sports, daily expressions. Understanding culture helps learners understand conversations more naturally. A student named Grace became confused when classmates said, "break a leg." She thought it sounded violent. Later, she learned it meant good luck. Idioms reveal the personality of a language. They make English colorful, emotional, and memorable. Lesson 18. Reading aloud improves pronunciation, confidence, and rhythm simultaneously. A shy learner named Ethan practiced reading newspaper articles every night. At first, his voice sounded uncertain, but repetition changed his rhythm. He started pausing naturally. Stress patterns improved. His speech became smoother. Fluency is not only about vocabulary, it is about rhythm and flow. Lesson 19. Many learners fear speaking with native speakers. But native speakers are often more patient than learners expect. A cashier named Mia practiced short conversations with customers daily. "How's your day going? Did you find everything okay? Have a great evening." Tiny conversations built real confidence. Language grows through interaction, not isolation. Lesson 20. By this stage, learners begin understanding that fluency is not a destination. Even native speakers continue learning new words throughout life. English becomes a lifelong companion, not a final exam. This realization removes pressure. The learner no longer chases perfection. Instead, they chase growth. Lesson 21. B1 learners begin expressing opinions more clearly. They can explain ideas, dreams, and experiences. A barber named Leo practiced discussing simple topics with friends: sports, movies, family, work. His sentences were not perfect, but they carried personality. That is the beauty of intermediate English. The learner's true identity finally starts appearing through the language. Lesson 22. Confidence changes body language. A learner who once avoided eye contact now speaks openly. A student named Natalie joined an English discussion group every weekend. At first, she spoke softly. Months later, she laughed naturally during conversations. Language had stopped feeling like a test. It has become a social connection. Lesson 23. One powerful habit separates successful learners from unsuccessful ones. They continue learning even after improvement begins. Some learners stop practicing once communication becomes possible. But strong English grows through long-term discipline. A truck driver named Ryan listened to English audiobooks during long road trips. Hour after hour, his listening improved naturally. Immersion transforms ordinary time into learning time. Lesson 24. At the B1 level, learners begin telling stories. This is a huge milestone. Storytelling requires memory, sequencing, emotion, and vocabulary. A teenager named Chloe described her childhood vacation entirely in English during class. Her teacher smiled proudly. Months earlier, Chloe struggled introducing herself. Now, she was sharing memories. Language had become personal. Lesson 25. Every learner carries invisible scars from moments of embarrassment. But those painful moments often become the strongest motivation. A man named Kevin once misunderstood a simple instruction at work. My co-workers became frustrated. That night, he promised himself something. He would never stop improving. Pain became fuel, and fuel created progress. Lesson 26. Fluent learners are not fearless. They simply continue despite fear. A musician named Claire performed songs in English at local cafes. Sometimes she forgot lyrics. Sometimes pronunciation mistakes happened. But every performance made her stronger. Courage grows through action, not waiting. Lesson 27. English opens doors beyond communication. It creates access, better jobs, international friendships, education, travel, knowledge. A janitor named Samuel studied English late every night after exhausting shifts. Years later, he became a supervisor because his communication skills improved. Language changed his opportunities. Lesson 28. Many learners underestimate the power of listening carefully. Great speakers are usually great listeners first. A young woman named Harper improved rapidly because she paid attention to how Americans naturally paused, reacted, and connected ideas. She learned communication rhythm. This made her speech sound more natural. Lesson 29. There is beauty in the beginner stage. Why? Because beginners still believe transformation is possible. A learner named Isaac kept every notebook from his English journey. Years later, he opened his oldest notebook. The early mistakes made him smile. Those mistakes were proof of courage. Never hate your beginning. Your beginning creates your future. Lesson 30. The B1 learner finally realizes something life-changing. English is no longer a school subject. It is part of everyday life. Songs become understandable. Conversations become enjoyable. Movies become emotional instead of confusing. This transformation feels deeply personal. Lesson 31. A woman named Rachel cried quietly after finishing her first full English novel. Not because the story was sad, but because she remembered how impossible English once felt. Language learning changes identity. It proves that human beings can grow beyond fear. Lesson 32. The journey from A1 to B1 teaches patience more than talent. Fast learners and slow learners both succeed if they continue. A teenager named Mason improved slowly for years, but he never stopped. Eventually, consistency defeated insecurity. Lesson 33. Confidence spreads into every area of life. A learner who becomes brave in English often becomes brave elsewhere too. A waitress named Zoe started speaking more confidently at work after improving her English. She later applied for college. Language growth awakened personal growth. Lesson 34. There will always be another level, another vocabulary word, another pronunciation challenge, another difficult conversation. But learners who reach B1 understand something powerful. Progress matters more than perfection. Lesson 35. At this stage, English learners often begin helping others. A student named Tyler volunteered to support new immigrant classmates. He remembered his own fears. Now he became encouragement for someone else. The learner had become the guide. Lesson 36. English creates bridges between worlds. A farmer from a small town can speak with someone across the ocean. A student can study international ideas. A worker can pursue new opportunities. Language removes invisible walls. Lesson 37. A learner named Hannah once avoided phone calls because English conversations terrified her. Years later, she worked in customer service speaking confidently all day. Transformation rarely happens dramatically. It happens quietly, sentence by sentence, day by day. Lesson 38. The most powerful English learners become curious instead of fearful. When they hear unfamiliar words, they feel interested rather than ashamed. Curiosity keeps learning alive. Lesson 39. Every accent carries a story. Learners should never feel embarrassed about where they come from. American English is not about erasing identity. It is about expanding communication. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Lesson 40. A learner named Caleb stood in front of a mirror every morning repeating affirmations. I am improving. My voice deserves to be heard. I can communicate confidently. Words influence belief. Belief influences action. Action influences destiny. Lesson 41. Daily habits shape fluency. 10 focused minutes every day can become life-changing over time. A mother named Julia listened to English lessons while preparing breakfast. She transformed ordinary moments into learning opportunities. Lesson 42. The strongest learners protect their mindset carefully. Negative self-talk destroys confidence. Positive persistence builds resilience. A learner named Benjamin stopped saying, "My English is terrible." Instead, he said, "My English is improving." That small mental shift changed his energy. Lesson 43. B1 learners start understanding humor. This is an exciting milestone. Jokes require timing, culture, and quick understanding. A student named Ella laughed during an English comedy show for the first time without subtitles. She felt connected to the language emotionally. Lesson 44. The road to fluency often feels lonely. Friends may not understand the effort. Family members may not see the daily struggle. But every hour of practice matters. Every repeated sentence matters. Every brave conversation matters. Lesson 45. English learners sometimes forget how far they have come. A man named Adrian once feared ordering coffee. Years later, he delivered presentations in English at work. Never underestimate small progress. Tiny steps create extraordinary journeys. Lesson 46. The A1 learner once feared basic introductions. Now the B1 learner can share dreams, experiences, and opinions. That transformation is powerful. Language learning is proof that the human brain can rebuild itself through persistence. Lesson 47. A learner named Sophie kept a voice recording from her first month learning English. Years later, she listened again. Her pronunciation had changed. Her rhythm had changed. Her confidence had changed. Growth becomes emotional when we hear the distance traveled. Lesson 48. The future belongs to learners who refuse to quit. Not the smartest, not the fastest, the most persistent. English rewards consistency. Lesson 49. Some learners begin this journey because of survival, others because of opportunity, others because of dreams. But all successful learners discover something beautiful. They become stronger people during the process. Language learning teaches humility, patience, courage, discipline, and resilience. Lesson 50. One day, you will hear someone speaking English quickly, and instead of fear, you will feel calm. You will answer naturally. You will understand jokes. You will express your thoughts. And suddenly, you will remember the person you once were. The beginner. The nervous learner. The quiet student is afraid of mistakes. You will realize that person never disappeared. That person simply kept walking. If you are still watching this documentary, remember something important. Fluency is not magic. It is not reserved for special people. It belongs to ordinary learners who continue practicing after difficult days. It belongs to students who feel embarrassed but try again. It belongs to workers who study after exhausting shifts. It belongs to dreamers who refuse to give up. English is not only a language, it is a bridge toward confidence, opportunity, and connection. So speak. Even if your voice shakes. Read. Even if you understand slowly. Listen. Even if the sentences feel fast. Continue. Because every sentence you practice today is building the person you will become tomorrow. Your journey from A1 to B1 is not impossible. It has already started. And step by step, word by word, conversation by conversation, you are becoming the English speaker you once dreamed about. Keep learning, keep believing, and never stop speaking. Lesson 45. English learners sometimes forget how far they have come. A man named Adrian once feared ordering coffee. Years later, he delivered presentations in English at work. Never underestimate small progress. Tiny steps create extraordinary journeys. Lesson 46. The A1 learner once feared basic introductions. Now the B1 learner can share dreams, experiences, and opinions. That transformation is powerful. Language learning is proof that the human brain can rebuild itself through persistence. Lesson 47. A learner named Sophie kept a voice recording from her first month learning English. Years later, she listened again. Her pronunciation had changed. Her rhythm had changed. Her confidence had changed. Growth becomes emotional when we hear the distance traveled. Lesson 48. The future belongs to learners who refuse to quit. Not the smartest, not the fastest, the most persistent. English rewards consistency. Lesson 49. Some learners begin this journey because of survival, others because of opportunity, others because of dreams. But all successful learners discover something beautiful. They become stronger people during the process. Language learning teaches humility, patience, courage, discipline, and resilience. Lesson 50. One day, you will hear someone speaking English quickly, and instead of fear, you will feel calm. You will answer naturally. You will understand jokes. You will express your thoughts. And suddenly, you will remember the person you once were. The beginner. The nervous learner. The quiet student is afraid of mistakes. You will realize that person never disappeared. That person simply kept walking. If you are still watching this documentary, remember something important. Fluency is not magic. It is not reserved for special people. It belongs to ordinary learners who continue practicing after difficult days. It belongs to students who feel embarrassed but try again. It belongs to workers who study after exhausting shifts. It belongs to dreamers who refuse to give up. English is not only a language, it is a bridge toward confidence, opportunity, and connection. So speak, even if your voice shakes. Read, even if you understand slowly. Listen, even if the sentences feel fast. Continue, because every sentence you practice today is building the person you will become tomorrow. Your journey from A1 to B1 is not impossible. It has already started. And step by step, word by word, conversation by conversation, you are becoming the English speaker you once dreamed about. Keep learning, keep believing, and never stop speaking.